So when the Music Hall approached us and asked us to partner on today's event, they said, we're thinking this theme could be secrets because Dan Brown is our keynote speaker, and wrapping up the week, he's going to talk about his book called The Secret of Secrets, and we're like, yes, so many secrets. Let's go. Who doesn't love a good, juicy secret, right? So in typical Creative Mornings fashion, we decided to put our spin on this theme. And so today, what we've planned for you is a panel of incredible local authors and writers. We've got a novelist, a memoirist, a poet, and a ghostwriter. Yes, so you're going to hear from all kinds of literary, extravagant, phenomenal people who are going to spill some of their secrets for us here on this stage. Secrets about their creative process, secrets about the stuff they've written about, secrets about the people they've written about, maybe. Yeah, it's going to get juicy. It's a Monday morning. Buckle up. There's also an opportunity for you all to perhaps get your questions answered in this panel. So there are some Post-it notes and pens, pencils on the tables. If you have a question for one of our authors, at any point during the panel, jot it down at the end of when I'm starting to wind down what we've got planned. We'll have our volunteers collect those and bring them up to the stage. And you'll get some of your questions answered about our panelist speaker secrets as well. So, without further ado, I'm so excited to introduce you to what we've got planned today and introduce you to these phenomenal people. Diannely Anitgua is a Dominican-American poet and author of the collections Ugly Music, out in Yes Yes Books from 2019, and Good Monster from Copper Canyon Press in 2024. From 2022 to 2024, she was the 13th Poet Laureate of Portsmouth, New Hampshire. She currently teaches in the MFA writing program at UNH as the Nasrat Yassini Poet in Residence. Please welcome to the stage Diannely Anitgua. Mark Dagostino made his career co-authoring books that inspire and uplift. After establishing a journalistic foundation at the Boston Globe, Mark spent 10 years on staff at People magazine. This is why you have the Post-its, y'all. You need to know the dirt, right? Tailoring articles to the tastes and desires of 40 million readers per week. Today, he's known for penning 7 New York Times bestsellers and multiple national bestsellers, including The Magnolia Story with Chip and Joanna Gaines, Hulk Hogan's My Life Outside the Ring, and Ellie and Coach with Portsmouth's own Stephanie Shaheen. Please welcome to the stage Mark Dagostino. Abdi Nor Iftin is a Somali-American award-winning author and speaker. Born in Mogadishu, Abdi survived famine and war, and his story was featured on NPR, This American Life, and the BBC. He has worked in main media, advocates for his community, mentors young writers, and enjoys exploring the Maine wilderness. Please give a hand for Abdi Nor Iftin. Lara Prescott's debut novel, The Secrets We Kept, was an instant New York Times bestseller, a Reese Witherspoon book club pick, an Edgar Award finalist, a Barnes & Noble Discover pick, and has been translated into 30 languages. Lara currently lives in Portsmouth with her family, and her next novel, Common Women, will be published in fall 2026. Yes, let's give a hand for Lara Prescott. Okay, y'all, let's get into these secrets. So Lara, I'd like to start with you. I have a first question for you. Because there are characters in your book, The Secrets We Kept, who are responsible for harboring and sharing secrets. And secrets aren't just about what's hidden, but about who we become when we hold them. So my question for you is, how do you think secrets have shaped you as a writer and as a creator?
I mean, who doesn't love secrets? I think of my first book, The Secrets We Kept, and it follows a group of CIA spies, most of whom are women. And of course, they have the secrets of the mission at hand, which was to smuggle Dr. Zhivago behind the Iron Curtain during the Cold War. But for me, what's really interesting is the secrets the characters carry. And for me, any book of fiction is just filled with characters with secrets. I think every single one of my characters has secrets with this book and the next one. And it's a really interesting, from a craft perspective, literary device that not only inspires like narrative propulsion and you want to get to the end and find out these secrets, but it makes your characters deeper and richer. What are their secret desires? What are their secret pasts? And how does that affect how they move forward and the relationships with people? So when I'm writing, even if I never reveal the secrets of the people, I'm thinking of, what is going on in their mind. And that leads me to find out what happens by the end of the book. And I just think for a reader, it's always exciting, whether it's an unreliable narrator who's like, I'm going to tell you the scoop, and you're like, is that really what happened? Or if it's multiple characters that are telling you bits and pieces and you're piecing together the secrets, or if you're just finding out something maybe about yourself that is secret and you're seeing it in another character, and that really makes you feel good and seen. So, yeah.
I love that so much. I need to ask a follow-up. How do you unpack that? Like, how do you know if you should tell the audience what the secret is or whether you should keep it a secret? Like, where's that line for you? How do you know?
I think every secret has to have a consequence, whether it's stated or unstated. And when you reveal that, if you reveal that, it has to be at the right point in time. Revealing a secret up front can be cool from a character's voice perspective, but I do like how the secrets kind of unfold or start falling apart or falling to the, forward as it goes on. And it really helps if you're writing, the pacing of the book. But yeah, some of the secrets I keep to myself, I guess. And people always ask me, which character's you? And I'm like, well, they're all kind of me. You figure it out.
I love that. So are there any secrets, for those of you who've read any of Lara's work, are there any secrets you want to tell us that maybe you didn't tell us in the book?
Oh, well, everyone, I don't know if this is a spoiler. The book's been out for a while, so it's not a spoiler. Everyone asks me, what I thought happens in the end.
Yeah.
And I say, I don't know, what do you think? So I guess I'll keep that one to myself.
The secret is yours. Choose your own adventure. I love that.
Yeah.
Awesome. And so, Abdi, one of the common themes between Lara's book and yours, and your work, Call Me American, is secrecy as a form of liberation. So, in your story, you talk about evading conscription in Somalia while secretly filing stories for NPR under penalty of death. Can you speak to that a bit? Like, what was it like to be in that position, and what did living this secret life mean for you and for how that translated into your process of transcribing and writing it?
Yeah, sure. So let me give you the lay of land. I was practicing my English from movies, right? I didn't know who I was. I survived in war. We didn't have a house, and then there's a secret number that calls me, no number, sort of, right, in Somalia, and it's someone who works for NPR, says, hey, we don't know what's going on in that country, but do you mind secretly sending dispatch? Like, do you mind sharing stories? And I shared that secretly with my mother. I said, Mom, there's this opportunity. They might pay me, right? Because I've never been paid. And Mom said, don't even think of it. Because she knew it was a one-way ticket, like I could get killed for that. But I didn't give up. My brother, who was in Kenya at the time, said, go ahead and do this. This is, this might be the one. This might be the opportunity. It started as a secret. So anyways, we agreed that they use a photo of me, but not showing my face. I was turning away. Some of you might actually find it. It was called. It had a name, Message from Mogadishu. So it's secretly sending stories. I wasn't a journalist. I was just literally practicing English. But the bottom line is your story is your strength. You know your story. I kept a lot of secrets back, obviously. And one of the reasons, by the way, that I was secretly sending those stories was that I could have been easily killed if anybody figured out that I was the one, telling the story overseas, especially the story that ended up on, on NPR, American Public Media, and several local radios. And this is way back in 2009 and 10, around when podcasts were emerging. So now, back to the question, to me, it was just a life and death situation, but I had nothing to lose, right? But so I had to do this secretly to see if the secret becomes the path forward. And it had actually finally led me to sit here, naturalized American. But if I did not do that, if I accepted the fear of not, that I could get killed if I didn't do that, I wouldn't be here, that I know. But so that courage, that resilience, that strength of moving forward, knowing that you could get killed is actually what got me here.
And yet you say you had nothing to lose, but
Yeah.
you had everything to lose. Like you were.
Well, right.
Yeah. So this is mind blowing. So how long was that period that you lived with that? Like, how quick did you come to the decision of I want to do this and I want to respond and what was that time frame like for you? And were there ever moments where you made the decision to start sharing your story that you were like, oh no, I should probably reel back? Or tell us a little bit more about what that was like for you.
So interestingly enough, I had very close friends that I grew up with, my own circle of friends, 5 of them. Only 2 knew this, others didn't. So that's how secret this was. So I was, the whole dispatch thing was really, 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 really secret, right? But it wasn't that secret because my voice has reached thousands and thousands of people. Just, to understand, it's like what's happening in Gaza these days, right? The media is not there. You have no idea the personal stories, what families are facing. It was more like that back then. The international media was completely disconnected from the civil war in Somalia, and then that turned into an Islamist war, and nobody knew because American media wouldn't go there. The other, even Arabic-speaking media wouldn't go there. So they only relied on the personal human stories that existed, and I became to be right on that spot, right? So, and to me, it's just if I really don't do this, maybe the next person will do that, right? But if I die doing this, you know what the New Hampshire tag is, right? It was exactly like that. Yeah.
Live free or die, baby. Yeah. Wow. Okay, so Diannely, anyone who has read your poetry knows you're an open book. You write about so many things that feel like glimpses into the deepest parts of yourself, and you make that available to us. And it's just so raw and vulnerable and beautiful. And I think part of the reason maybe we're all here today is because we feel like sharing our deepest secrets is what makes for the best art and the richest stories, right? So can you tell us a little bit about what it feels like to craft such deep parts of yourself? Like digging into your story, translating it to poetry, and maybe along with that, like what advice might you give some aspiring writers or people who have these deeper parts of themselves that they want to share through poetry?
Awesome, thank you. I feel like nothing holds more secrets than a teenage girl's diary. So I brought my first diary with me. I got this when I was 9 years old. My sister gave it to me for Christmas. It has little angels on it. It had a lock on it. And it's funny, my sister was also given the same type of diary. So we each had a key, but it worked on both of them. So we would constantly... we were constantly like reading each other's diaries. And one time in my diary, I wrote about having read my sister's diary. And she read that. And then she decided to write me a little note in my own diary. And she was like, "You read my diary. I hate you." Now we have a great relationship. But I feel like nothing holds more secrets than a girl's diary. And especially in my case, I was raised in a strict religious system. I would say very cult-like, and I was also raised in an abusive home. I lived with my abuser for about 13 years. So I had a lot of secrets. Definitely had a lot of secrets, and ones that I felt it was dangerous for me to say out loud to anyone. Whether it was secrets about what was happening to me in church or secrets about what was happening to me at home. So I was constantly just like harboring that, and keeping it inside. And then when my sister finally gave me this journal, it was my opportunity to finally put it on the page and write it down and tell someone, even if it was just almost like saying it to myself, right? And it reminds me a lot of The Diary of a Young Girl by Anne Frank, right? She's hiding in the annex and she's writing in her diary. And I just remember thinking how important her words were, and I feel like her words changed the world in a lot of ways, right? So I, after having read that, I was like, well, I'm gonna do the same thing. I want my words to have an impact, to some capacity. So I just kept writing and writing and writing. And over the years, I've filled 42 journals. And along the way, I decided, okay, well, I'm definitely a writer, right? So I studied in school, and then when I was doing this one project, when I was in my MFA program, I decided to actually use my journals to write poems. So I started collecting lines from each journal and started writing poems from them. And I call it the Diary Entry Series. And it's basically just collage poems using the language from these journals, but it's a way for me to retell, reclaim the stories that were in here, right? And I feel like for me, when I write about trauma, about the heavy things, it's really difficult sometimes to write about it head on, to write about the day that changed my life. That's really hard for me to do. But if I enter it from this, game of writing these poems where I just rearrange all of the language, almost kind of like Legos or Tetris or, whatever, collage. It gives me the opportunity to really play with language, and I'm able to approach these really heavy topics without reharming myself, because the focus is on the language alone, and I don't hold myself to factual truth, but more emotional truth. A lot of the times the speaker in those poems is what I call a cousin, or a sister to me. I don't say that the speaker of those diary entry poems is me. However, the emotional truth of those poems is true to who I am, And as far as advice for people who are deciding to, approach heavy, difficult topics, I think it's really important to create some distance between you and the, kind of triggering event. When these things happened to me, there was no way that I could have written about them right then and there, at least in poem form. In my journal, sure. But when it came to actually creating something and crafting something, I needed some time in order to obviously allow for some healing, but also allow for me to then focus on the craft. Because if you're too close to it, you're not able to think about how is this, what I'm saying, serving the poem, and you're more thinking about, well, this is what happened to me. And I think those are two different types of writing and approaching them in different ways. So I feel like the journal is where I spill, and then poetry is where I'm actually organizing the secrets in a way that I want to present to the world.
Okay, so I'm not a writer, so I'm so fascinated by this process, and have been so curious about that. So the collage imagery makes so much sense. Do you still use that in your writing? And are there new ways? So you started using that technique. How has that sort of morphed over the years for you? Is it grown as you've grown and changed as you've changed?
Yeah, so I still continue to write diary entry poems. I mean, I have 42 journals. I haven't worked through all of them yet, and it takes time. But one thing that I did start to do is I started to write what I call sister poems. So I take the same language that I've collected from one journal, and I write an entirely new poem from that same language. And it allows me an opportunity to transform it from the original poem into something entirely new. And it's just this I mean, I love doing it. I love words. I'm such a nerd, but it really allows me an opportunity to stretch and to challenge myself, to create something entirely new from the same language. I feel like it would be easy for me to just go back to the original image and rewrite it again the same way. But this is a great opportunity for me to reinvent the reinvention.
What's your favorite word? Do you have one? Do you all have what favorite word?
I think my favorite word, but it's in Spanish. It's profundamente, and it means just profound or deeply. Profundamente.
I love that. Any of y'all have a favorite word?
I do, actually. Mine translates as a bravery. I think writing needs that. So that's my favorite word in writing.
I have a least favorite word.
Yes, tell it. What is it?
Moist.
Oh, the classic.
Anyone else? Anyone else? Yeah, I think most of us are with you on that one. Love it. Oh, gosh. Okay. So, Mark, you're known for helping celebrities and public figures like Hannah Brown, Chip and Joanna Gaines shape their narratives and voices. So tell us, what is it like? And because has anyone else sat down with celebrities to write their stories? Anyone else in the room? Yeah, all the time. Okay, yeah. Yeah, it's what happens on a typical Tuesday afternoon. Tell us what it's like to do that, to sit down with someone famous and get them to tell stories about themselves that maybe they've never told before. And as a follow-up, are there any secrets you can tell us that you've learned about these folks that maybe you can share here on the Creative Mornings stage? Because we're not going to tell anyone, right?
No.
What happens at Creative Mornings stays at Creative Mornings.
No NDA.
First of all, sitting down with celebrities, getting to do that, having that opportunity, it's awesome, right? I grew up in Exeter. I'm, a kid from New Hampshire. Who knew that this is where I would wind up one day? There were hints early on, and there were things about living here that actually made it possible, which I think is interesting. I wasn't even thinking about talking about this today, but literally the politics of New Hampshire, the fact that you get to meet these candidates and come through and you're shaking the hands of presidents or future presidents or that kind of thing. I mean, there's an early introduction of connection that takes away some of the intimidation, maybe. I also had, my great uncle was actually close friends with George Bush Sr. They used to consult often. I'd be at his little house in Exeter at the Rose Farm, where my Italian great-grandparents had the Rose Farm in Exeter for many years. And he would get a call from, the president as we're sitting there in his living room. I mean, it was just, and it was casual. They could just talk like old buddies. They could just share things. That was really cool. And to be around that and to see that, and he would take me as, at 12 years old, he would take me to Pease Air Force Base as Air Force 2 was landing and Bush was getting off the plane, and it would be like me and my cousin and my uncle and Carl Yastrzemski. There to greet the vice president as he was getting off the plane at that point. And it was, I think that broke down some barrier to me to realize that, okay, one, we're all connected. People who are in high position aren't necessarily that far away from us. There's a closeness. And to sit down with celebrities, my greatest strength, which I discovered through my time at People magazine and then carried on into the book world, was talking to them like regular people. That was the key. And to really, I almost never go in with a list of questions, ever. I try not to over-research before I get there, unless I have a very limited amount of time. Then you've got to, pinpoint and get to the good stuff quick or whatever. But especially with the book world and what I don't want to over-prepare because I don't want to be jaded by what the media has talked about. I don't want to be jaded by the misinformation that's out there in the media, which there's a lot. And so I want to hear what they have to say. And it starts with at the moment, right? People are like, why do you want to write a book? Like, why do you want to open up? Why do you, which is a big question. And if it's just because, a manager told them they should do this to make some more money, like, I'm not interested in that book. Most of the ones I've come to have been incredibly personal. They've reached a point where they have a platform. They can reach people, and they want to share something. Ultimately, and this is why it became books about inspiring and uplifting, because even when that wasn't the point at the start, somebody like, even Hulk Hogan, he had hit the ultimate low in his life, and I feel like I can speak to him now since he just passed away. I feel like I can share some of the more intimate things and the smaller things about him. He had gotten to absolute rock bottom when we met. I was working for People magazine at the time. I was one of 2 people to get an interview with him after his son had been in a car accident, went to jail, and after his wife had left him for a 20-year-old, and his whole life had fallen apart. And here was this guy, this larger than life. He seems like a cartoon character, right? And he had been brought to his knees, literally. He had to put a pistol in his mouth. He was at absolute rock bottom. And I met him as he was trying to climb his way back up. And it was so human and so surprising. And he cried in our interview. You would think it was a Barbara Walters special, right? It was like, there's no cameras there. It's just us. And I said to him, as we were leaving the interview, I said, I'm going to be able to cover this, and I'll do as best I can to get it into the magazine, but you ought to write a book. And he said, well, maybe, brother. And that was it. That led to my first book. It was entirely I wrote a book proposal on spec without any more participation from him. I sent it to him. He was emotional on the phone that someone would do that for him. He was at a vulnerable place in his life. And whenever we talked, he would tear up, right? About his kids, because now there's some estrangement, there's things going on because of divorce. It was about as human as you could possibly get with someone who seems not even human. And that's the magic of it, right? And it doesn't matter if it's Chip and Joanna Gaines, if it's Hannah Brown at 25 years old when we start working on a book. She was in complete transformation. She was still trying to get over her high school boyfriend. Like, how do you write a book about this stuff and bring it to life? And I had to come to where she was to make that make sense.
Yeah, so how do you do that? What are some of the elements of your process for cracking those nuts and getting that story, but not losing yourself in the story? Or like, how do you tease that apart?
Again, it's mostly because I keep it so conversational. The ideal thing, and it doesn't happen with all books, but is to have just as much time as possible, just sit and talk, go to dinner, take a drive. A lot of amazing conversations happen in cars. I don't know what it is, something about when you're both facing forward and kind of talking this way. It's amazing how the dialogue flows. My first, and it goes back, so much was learned in my first experience, because like Hulk Hogan, we were sitting across a table from one another, and oh my God, my first day with him was the dullest day ever. It was like, oh my God, I'm not going to be able to do this. I've promised people a book. I've never written a book. I don't know how, this isn't going to work. The next day we went out in his yellow Dodge Viper truck, which roars as it goes down the street. And we went driving around, and he just lit up. He would pull over to like some construction workers on the side of the road and go, "Hey guys, how's your day going?" Whatever, and let them take pictures. And like, we went to his favorite sushi place in a strip mall, down in Tampa, and it was, he opened up in such a different way. We drove by his old house where he grew up. He almost can't fit in the house. Like he and his brother had to sleep diagonal to use the whole full length of the room in order to sleep. You know what I mean? Would that story have come up if we didn't go there? I love doing the drive-arounds. I love trying to get to something that connects personally. And then it's amazing the way those stories flow.
That's so cool. I love that. Okay, so I have a question for all of you. I'd love to hear from each of you. What's the biggest secret you'd never say out loud at a book signing, but would happily whisper to an aspiring writer? And Abdi, maybe let's start with you.
Well, to an aspiring writer, I would tell her, be ready to curse.
Say more, please.
Really. Get ready to do that. Swear a lot. I have done that, and this is something I don't usually tell in front of people. It's like, hey, yeah, I wrote a book, yeah. Oh, well. But there were moments, obviously, you can connect with that using the S word, F word, just feeling frustrated and feeling like what you wrote doesn't make any sense to you, and just going back and forth. And that's, when I don't know if you know, there's a Telling Room nonprofit in Portland, Maine that I volunteered with, the young folks. And they often think to be a writer, you just have to have some kind of degree. You have to be professional in a certain language. And I tell them, no, that's not really true. Yeah, what language do you speak? Swahili. That's it. Write your feelings and emotions and whatever makes you feel good. And swearing, cursing is part of the language, but don't put that in the book. Go ahead and put it if you want. I mean, it's fine. So usually, that's a secret I always tell.
I love that. Oh gosh, I am going to keep using that to justify my own cursing. Abdi said.
That's a mess.
Lara, how about for you?
One thing I would tell aspiring writers is I remember so many times when I was in the audience, like listening at events like these and seeing these authors on stage and thinking like, oh my gosh, if I ever publish my book, I'll have it made. I'll have it all figured out. It's going to be glorious. Like, I don't know how I'm going to do it, but I want to do it. And I think I would tell those people that, having gone that line, it doesn't make me more of a writer than when I was sitting in the audience. To be a writer, the only thing you have to do is write. You don't have to have a list of accomplishments and awards, and that is something else. You have to separate it. And to me, when you're sitting alone, and writing is hard. I mean, for me it is. There's days that I'm just like, I don't know what I'm doing. Even writing this next book, I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing. Like this is, and then there's days when you're tapped into something, you're tapped into a character, and the words flow, and you're in the zone. And that feeling that any aspiring writer can have right now is better than finding out you're on the New York Times bestseller list. And you will think back to that and think, I need to get that way again. And that's kind of the thing that fuels you. So, yeah. I know it's easier said. Like, I think a writer told me the same thing, and I was like, yeah, right. But
Yeah. No,
like,
but
give
I
me that
love
book deal. But now that's business.
That's business.
That's business. That's not being a writer. That's not being an artist. So never forget you're an artist.
Oh, I love that. I think that's so important for all of us to remember whatever we do. Yeah, that like recognition is great, but like it's those moments where we're just in flow, right? Where we're just in it. No one can get that from you, and no one can give that to you. That's just you, right? In your stuff. I love that so much. What about a secret from you, Diannely?
I love that actually that I am answering after Lara because my secret is that I don't write every day. Sometimes it's months where I'm not writing. I think this year alone I've maybe written one poem, and that's okay. And I think that there are different seasons in your writing life, or even in a year. Some seasons are for writing. Some seasons are for gathering. Some seasons are for rest. And I think that this past year for me, it's been a rest season. And I've been trying to be okay with that and not feel guilty about the fact that I'm a human and I need to sleep, I need to eat. Sometimes I just need to sit down and watch reality TV.
Love Island.
I have so many things to say about Love Island. Like, don't even get me started on Nicolandria. Like, don't even get me started on that. They're beautiful. But yes, I think that it's important for aspiring writers to know and understand that you can be a writer and actually not write sometimes as well.
Wow, love that.
Love it. What about for you, Mark? What would you tell us?
These are such great answers. Like I resonate with all of this, and then the other one is that and it goes along a little bit of what you said about awards and those kind of things. Like you end up looking at these writers on a stage, or you can't wait to meet your favorite author, and it's just like with the celebrities. Like, they're regular people. There's not a huge difference between what they've accomplished necessarily and where you are. Your writing may not maybe you're struggling to find a publisher, maybe there's other things that are the business aspects, but this line that we put, this putting on a pedestal, right? There are some writers, right, in history who have gotten down to words that just like a single sentence can blow your mind, right? But it's also every type of writing matters. You can come from anywhere. You can come from a different perspective. I mean, listening to these three perspectives next to my own is just mind-blowing to me, because I am an aspiring fiction writer. I'm working on a screenplay project right now. I'm doing other things, and I have massive aspirations for the next however many years of my life that are way different from what I've managed to do so far. But I like to tell writers that when you think maybe you're not good enough, maybe you're not there, okay, and this is really a secret, okay, so don't go spreading it around. I got a 540 on my English SAT. All right?
I'm telling
there is no one
I'm calling
who would have
Joanna
predicted.
Gaines right now and telling
There
her
was
Mark.
no one who would have predicted that I would become a professional writer and be making my living doing nothing else, right? The test scores are wrong. Pay attention to what you love and what you do, and that's it. Let go of the expectations that other people are telling you. You can get an editor to edit your grammar. You know, I learned more about grammar as a journalist than I ever did in school. It just didn't make sense to me. Why the comma goes here and the quotes go there and whatever. In journalism, suddenly I had to make sure everything I wrote was clear to other people. Suddenly the grammar made sense. So it was later in life that it made sense. Like, don't be intimidated by the stuff you don't know or you don't get. If you want to write, write.
Yes. Love that. Okay, if you have any questions in your brains that you want to get on paper, now's the time to do it and start passing those forward, and we'll get those included here. But I've got one more question for you before we turn to the audience. So there are secrets we keep and secrets we share, right? So as writers, creators, artists, how should we discern which ones to hold on to and which ones to expose? And Diannely, maybe we start with you. What are your thoughts as a writer, as a poet in general?
Yeah, I think, like you said earlier, like a lot of my work is an open book. I do reveal quite a bit. I also swear a lot. Yeah, I consider swears to be very important for my poems. But I feel as though my work is so revealing. But there are things that I do have to hold back for myself. And I think when I first started writing poetry, I didn't understand where that line was. And I think I'm still learning where that line is. But I think for the most part, for me, it's like, if I can read this poem out loud to a room of people and not be inflicting harm to myself, then I feel as though I can share that secret. But if the wound is still open and it's not quite a scar yet, then I think that it's important for me to hold on to that secret until either I feel the need to share it, or maybe it's just a secret for myself, and that's okay, you know. But I think that I've spent so much of my life keeping secrets. I think I just want to spill them all, because sometimes secrets can be very damaging and can cause a lot of harm. So I encourage folks to tell the secrets that they need to tell, and then to keep the ones that they need to keep close.
Mark, any thoughts?
Yeah, it's a real tough line when you're writing other people's stories. That's, I want to get as much out of them as possible. And when I worked at People magazine, there's a whole other thing, right? That they're always trying to get the secret, the answer, the romance story, the whatever's going on behind the scenes. But when it comes to a book, it really, what I try to get across when someone's holding something back is that that's probably the thing that's going to connect them with the most readers. That little personal thing that you think is shameful or that you're hiding, that you don't think anyone wants to hear, that's going to damage your image, that's a big thing in the celebrity world, of course, ends up being the thing that makes them absolutely beloved. The audience just comes to them and wants it and connects on a level that they never did before, and then they actually read the book. they actually dive into the story and they actually care more than ever. And I think that applies in all of our writing. It's harder to do when you're writing about yourself sometimes. It's hard.
Abdi, how about for you?
Yeah, the process of writing has got me to know a lot of secrets in my own family. Because the memoir has got me to talk to my mother in a way that I don't usually talk to her, right? I've written down questions based on my, writer brain. And she just unleashed things I really didn't know much about our family or her personal stories. And so she said, you can know this, but you cannot put that down in a book.
Yeah.
She literally said that, and I circled back many times. Mom, I feel like the reader would like to know this. So out of respect for her privacy and that she didn't want me share that to the world, so I keep that to myself, right? And that is probably something I will never talk about. It just bothers me. It feels to me like I'm about to explode with things in my family that I haven't known. And my mother's still alive, but if she passes, I've got the secrets to me. And then what do I do? Again, writing is a process, so we don't know everything, right? Up until now, I really debate if I will do justice telling my mother's secrets to the world. And like you said, it can harm. It can be painful, and that's why she said, I don't want that. And then, interestingly enough, my editor and my publisher and I took out some secrets from the book. Almost around the time when we published the memoir, there are a couple things that I said, I want this out. It's my first book. I don't know what the world will say. I don't know if there's going to be a backlash from my community, because sometimes some things are very sensitive. And I'll give you one example. I put down a huge secret that I am not culturally supposed to share. It's called female genital mutilation, right? As a man, can I talk about that in my family, right? Nobody does. And I got a little backlash putting that down, but that's part of the process, right? You really go ahead and be strong sometimes, but keep the big secrets that your mother, closest member of your family, tells you, I don't want you to share that, right? So I still hold some here.
But that interview process, though,
Yeah.
you learned things that you never would have learned had you not
Correct.
asked the question.
Correct.
And that's the thing that I love about my job more than anything else, is what I've been able to learn from other people, even if it doesn't go into the book. It doesn't go in the pages. And we have lots of those discussions about what to hold back or cutting something right before it goes to print because it might damage a relationship with someone in their family. But the sharing of it is actually unbelievably healing. And it's there's nothing like it.
Yeah.
So
And again, I feel like I know my mother more now than ever before, right? We're completely bonded.
love that.
Yeah. How about for you, Lara?
Well, I do think we live in this world where everyone's photoshopped and presenting their best selves on social media, or like that happy family photo. And then, you find out months down the road that, they were a mess. They're going through a divorce or whatever. There's a lot of things people hide when presenting themselves to the world. And in general, vulnerability connects us. I think you can have a lot of small talk, but then when you share something that's maybe a little hidden or vulnerable, that's when those real relationships begin. And the same thing goes in my writing. I think I'm not writing about myself. I write fiction. I write historical fiction. My next book takes place in the 1600s. But I do try to get at emotional truths and things that, these characters have hidden from themselves or others, and have not happened to me, but there's some sort of emotional connection that I want to get with the reader because they said, oh, I felt that way. I've been embarrassed and shamed that way. I've had my heart crushed that way too. And I think, sharing in that way, even though I haven't written a memoir, I don't know if I ever will. Something more interesting needs to happen to me, I think, first. But I do that through my fiction, even if it's under the guise of characters. And yeah, like that's the real stuff, like Mark was saying. The real stuff, you want the real stuff of celebrities or anybody that's gone through something. And 'cause that's what we all have. None of us are perfect.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and thank you so much, audience, for these questions. We're not going to be able to get to all of them, obviously, but one of the questions that came up was, I think it takes so much courage and so much bravery to do what you all do. And so one of our audience members wants to know, where does your courage come from? Because you are all so brave. Where do you find your courage?
I have a funny answer. I don't know if this is true, but I think all writers have a little bit of an ego, and we think we have a story to tell. And there takes some ambition to do that and say, I do have something to say, and this is my way to get it across. And so I don't know if it's courage or just thinking that, I have this part of me that wants to say something, and this is the way I do it. I don't know if that's true for anyone else.
I think mine comes from a place of almost like maternal instinct, of needing to protect and to hold. And I'm not a mother, but I am remothering my, youngest self, my childlike self. And I feel like I want to, just take care of her. And I think that's where the courage comes from. You read those articles where, a mom is able to pick up a car and save her child from, whatever. It's so many things can happen, superhuman strength in that moment. And I feel like that's where my courage comes from, is from this need to protect and hold, my young self, my childlike self. So, yeah.
I think mine came from the fact that I didn't have any courage at all. It came from doing. My first journalism course at UNH, it's okay, go out and knock on someone's door and do this, or, pick up the phone and call this police chief, or call this expert, or call somebody. And the amazing thing is that when I did it, people answered. I asked a question and they answered. It was oh, wow, thank you. And the more it happened, the more, I guess, comfort I developed. I guess that's courageous, but it just grew step by step, but it came action first. I didn't have to have the courage to do it. It was the doing that made it possible.
Mine, definitely frustration, knowing that something's happening, but knowing that the world is ignoring it, right? Attention's away, and so that frustration of I have to be brave. I have to really say things, at least start it up, right? And historically, there are a lot of people who did that. When you look down at some of the great authors out there, stories that have affected families, countries, societies, communities, that we don't know much about. So you're frustrated enough to let that go, and especially coming from a nonfiction memoir, biographical, right? How much, I think I'll give you a pretty easy example. Where I come from, Somalia, which is right next to Kenya and Ethiopia, if you ask the average American, they will always tell you, oh yeah, Captain Phillips, yeah, bad guy. Black Hawk Down, there's 2 movies.
I covered that story, by the way.
You did? That's amazing. And so, it's 2 stories made out of the country that I come from, but it's war, it's conflict, it's bad guys, American heroes, right, that kind of thing. And it kind of frustrates me because the average person in the country is not involved. 90% of the people are we just want to live a normal life. We don't care who's running the country. There's too much. And so that frustration got me thinking, I really want to let these true stories out. So, yeah.
I have one more thing for aspiring writers out there where the courage does come in. So every writer, if you put your work out in the world, someone's going to love it, someone's going to hate it. Especially when you're when you're starting out, you're at a workshop or you're sharing this and someone's saying something and you're just what? And it's hard and you think you can't do it. And you're maybe I am a fraud. Maybe I don't have what it takes. And the courage comes from saying, you know what? I'm going to keep going. It doesn't matter. Things are subjective. I have this thing in me, a talent that I'm not going to hide because I've been rejected. So many talented people will get that rejection and they're out of the game for good. Yeah. Anyone that's up here has published knows rejection and they've gotten through it. And that does take courage. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And that was another question that came up here. Well, sort of related. And there were so many great questions here, y'all. I wish we had another hour. Can we do that, Music Hall? No? Sorry. Okay. Maybe next week. Come back. This whole idea of imposter syndrome kind of came up in this question, and the question really is, how do you push through that self-doubt? And so maybe we can end on this. Any advice you have for anyone, writer or not, or aspiring writer or not, just as humans, what can you offer to our audience for pushing through that self-doubt, that voice in your head that says someone's going to hate this or this isn't good? What do you got for us to leave us on an inspirational note?
As a follow-up to what you were just saying, I'm going through it right now because I'm trying to really expand into other areas. And just because you've had bestsellers in the nonfiction world does not mean anybody wants to read your fiction. It has been humbling. It has been hard. It has brought me way down. I started rewriting things that I thought were really good and then realized what am I doing? I've retreated. Whatever. So I'm right there having to learn it all again, and trying to, I need this to help me move forward in that area. I think listening to others, getting encouragement, trying not to listen to the negative voices, but to trust that you can do this, and then it has to come down again to the just doing and just go, keep pushing. I need to send my manuscript out again, and it's been many months because I was really beaten down by a couple of rejections, and so it doesn't go away. It doesn't go away, but you have to just keep pushing.
Yeah, I mean, every book, my second book, I'm like, oh, I know what to do now. Look at my first book did so well. And then you're sitting down with I don't know what I'm doing at all. Yeah. And you have to relearn it for every project, every book. And you'll think, I don't know, the imposter syndrome is something that you just have to protect yourself as an artist and realize that the imposter syndrome relates to business, and you just got to fake it till you make it. I know what I can do it again. I'm going to keep going. But it is tough. And I'll tell you, way more famous writers than I have said the same thing. They're like, I'm an imposter for life. And that's how it is.
Yeah.
I almost feel like an imposter answering this question about imposter syndrome. I'm going through the process right now. I'm fighting it. So yeah, in real time, I am fighting imposter syndrome, and I think I'm kind of just going to echo some of what was said. But having a supportive community is so important. People to remind you of what you've accomplished or who you are. Go to therapy, take medication if you need to. Propranolol is great. But even if I think it was last week, I was talking about something with my therapist, and she just reminded me of something that I did, an accomplishment. She's like, "You did this," and I said, "Oh yeah, that's right. I did do that thing," and it was just a beautiful moment to feel noticed by someone, and I feel like it's important that we do that for other people too. Help other people fight their imposter syndrome and their insecurities. Remind people of the good things about themselves, and I think we always do focus on the negatives, but tell someone something nice today. It really, honestly, it goes a long way, and I have to say, from experience that. Something that's been said to me by a stranger saved my life. So, yeah.
I would like to say I was writing columns for the local Maine paper for 3.5 years. I was enjoying it. I created a community of readers there who really enjoyed stuff, and I stopped doing that after I was rejected. Right? There's not the paper itself. It was there are people out there on social media. Oh, deport this guy! He's saying too much. So that word really got me off. I said, it's a little too much. And I like what you were saying, which is take a break. Don't write anything. Just take a hike or go into the woods or do camping. And I'm in that process as we speak right now. And I realized there's a huge amount of people that were reading my stuff, and now the email just pops up. It's oh, we missed you. Come back. The stuff. And I just realized how much, like you were saying, the community that you create that really motivate you, that want you to be there, that want your voice and your words. And so that's what I'm doing right now, sort of sit back and say, well, there's actually more community out there. You might not see them on the streets. They don't even know me if they do see me in the streets. I look different, right, from the photos. But that has really got me thinking, this is it, right? There's people out there that the words get to them. They do understand, and so I should sit back and really re-energize is basically where I am at the moment. So yeah, there's that.
Amazing. Well, I will just say on behalf of Creative Mornings, we are so grateful that you said yes to this, and of course the Music Hall and LitFest as well, but as the person for Creative Mornings who really feels that, like, that is what this community is about, like lifting each other up and helping us, being there together in those times that feel really hard, and reminding each other to keep going. And so I just want to echo that and want to invite you all again that if you haven't been a part of our Creative Mornings community and this is your first time, I really hope you'll join us again. And for everyone who is part and comes back regularly, keep coming back. Community, I truly believe, is what will save us. And so thank you so much to our panelists, Diannely Anitgua, Mark Dagostino, Abdi Nor Iftin, and Lara Prescott. Thank you all so much for saying yes to this. And thank you so much to the Music Hall.